In this fourth installment of Panic, Johnny awakes from his fantastical, wondrous journey through the Met and confronts the harsh, indeed frightening reality of being afflicted with anxiety syndrome, with a panic disorder, that challenges his ability to fit in and to feel normal and accepted on this path to college.
When John Saster awoke from his 6-hour-long Ativan-induced sleep, he felt groggy and ravenously hungry. He had no idea where he was. His arm ached in a raw kind of way. He could see what appeared to be his mother, a trim figure slumped asleep in a chair near the bed. An ivy hung high above his shoulder.
Am I in a hospital ER?
He thought to himself.
What is going on?
He muttered. A nurse came to his side.
You had an accident. You've just come out of a very deep sleep,
she said, checking his eyes.
How do you feel?
Okay, I guess.
You're going to be all right,
she assured, holding his good arm. At the sound of her son's voice, Diane Saster stirred from her sleep. Tossing yesterday's New York Times on the side table next to her cup of Starbucks, she moved over to his bedside to comfort him.
How are you feeling? You okay? Whew, I must have passed out myself.
Yeah, I'm good, Mom. Kinda sore, though. My arm hurts. What a dumbass I am,
he joked, laughing in a self-mocking way.
You know, I remember seeing the car the second before it hit me. Pretty stupid to want to slow dance with a BMW, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I was in some kind of daze. Some messed up fog. Don't worry. I wasn't hoping some car would come by and run me over.
It was just a terrible accident. We're lucky we have you,
she whispered, leaning in to kiss his forehead.
I'm going to call your father. He went home to get some sleep.
A few minutes later, a doctor walked in with a clipboard.
Young man, you were very fortunate. This could have been a lot worse. We're going to discharge you tomorrow morning. But I want you to come back in 4 weeks about that arm after we set it in a cast upstairs. I also want you to see folks in mental health for a psychological evaluation.
The last 2 words caught Johnny off guard, jarring him. Nobody had ever talked about psych evals.
What the hell was that all about?
He wondered. His mom immediately moved over to the surgeon and led him outside into the hallway.
Why did you say psychological evaluation? And in front of my child? That was uncalled for.
Mrs. Saster, with all due respect, I'm the doctor and you're not. The reports we received were that the boy walked out into the street in a kind of catatonic state. We tested him for drugs, cocaine, marijuana, barbiturates, standard stuff. Nothing came up positive. So, in his best interest, it's my recommendation that he undergo a very basic mental health evaluation.
I hear you, but my son has nothing wrong with him.
The doctor handed her a few signed slips of paper and walked down the hall. The next night, back in his own bed in the Saster penthouse, John could hear his father arguing with his mother in the living room.
He's fine, just fine, damn it.
Martin steamed.
Well, I think we should make an appointment at the hospital just to be sure, as the doctor recommended.
Diane rejoined. The two went back and forth, and the teen could hear his father pacing on the polished oak floor. His heart began to race. Through the slightly ajar door, he could hear the serial ka-chink of his dad's scotch glass being placed firmly on the granite countertop. Drinking again, he thought, as he heard his mom sobbing.
I'm worried, Martin. What the hell happened? Why would he get up with his head in the clouds and walk right into the street without looking?
I don't know, but I'm not worried about it. You're making too big of a deal here, Diane. The kid probably had the flu or something. Just drop it, okay? And no, I'm not going to have him visit some goddamn shrink in the hospital. It's just some passing thing.
Diane, resigned to her husband's resolve, nodded. She grasped his hand, and they retired to the bedroom down the hall. John's thoughts were jumbled. Something weird had gone down in the SAT testing room. He remembered the feeling of numbness, first in his toes and then shooting up his legs and into his chest. He remembered an urgent feeling of wanting to get out, to get away, and his racing heartbeat and dry as sandpaper mouth. He remembered feeling incredibly alone, even with all those eyes staring at him. Most acutely, he remembered that breathless feeling of impending death.
What the hell?
He sighed, turning and hugging his pillow. He gazed at the posters of rock legends on his wall, doing his best to take his mind off of whatever trauma had just banged into him. Grabbing his earphones, he fell asleep to some of his favorite tunes. The next weeks were rocky. Back at school, he felt 1,000 critical eyes staring at him, all trying to figure out why he wigged out during the SATs. Holding his cast-encased arm up in the air didn't help. It was like a white flag everybody couldn't help but notice. Worst of all was the sense of isolation. It was a small prep school, and everyone had his or her take on this or that student. As for his own persona, Johnny knew he was seen as the quirky, deep-in-the-money kid whose dad kicked back with martinis and cigars on the terrace of the family's Fifth Avenue penthouse, a corporate insider who hobnobbed in the Hamptons and ran some big legal office down on Wall Street. He just wanted to be one of the kids, walking down the hall with his homework, blending in, low-key. Okay, it was cool to have earned a little respect knowing how to play guitar and shred a decent version of Stairway to Heaven. Now everyone was treating him like a pariah. A freak, to be honest. The thought was disconcerting to the point that he felt not just embarrassed but frozen zombie-like deep inside. He was dogged by a sense of guilt, by a feeling he had done something irretrievably wrong, almost like having committed a crime. As he walked from one class to another, he sensed everyone talking about him in hushed, judgmental tones. He felt detached, scared. More than anything, he was worried that the thing which came out of nowhere in a 10-minute fury could happen again, just as unexpectedly. So damn random. His brief solitary walks to and from school might have been out on the tundra for all he knew. People seemed to stare, and more than once he had to steady himself against a building. He needed a friend now more than ever. At home, he noticed that his dad was not around as much. Perhaps he was working late at the office. And when his father was around, he seemed strangely distant, indeed removed. Conversations were all business.
How's it going at school? You keeping up the grades?
Johnny sensed his old man was jolted by the incident, as his parents described his freak-out on the avenue. Martin Saster, Mr. Button-Down, Mr. Harvard B.A., and Harvard Law had a hard time with speed bumps. John knew all too well. And man, he, the son who more than anything wanted to please his dad, had just smashed into one, while his dad took on this business-as-usual attitude inside the Sasters' four walls. His mom assumed a heavily tactile approach, hugging Johnny tight whenever she saw him, to the point he felt a little uncomfortable.
I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry.
He would reassure her, retreating to his room to play some chords from his favorite Pearl Jam album. Still, he could feel his mom's worried eyes staring at him with each and every step he took down the hall. In those first weeks after the accident and his return from hospital, she would gently tap at his door. He wouldn't answer, pretending he didn't hear over the din of the music, and the tapping would fade away. Sometimes, when he was alone in the room with a lump in his throat and a brooding feeling something was not right in his head, he would break down and cry, smothering his face in the pillows. One thing did focus his mind, no matter how hard he tried to dismiss it from his rapid-fire neural network: the fact that he would have to take the SAT again and smoke it to get into Harvard or any Ivy. Deep in his heart, he didn't give a rat's ass about going to the same Ivy League college or comp school as his folks. He wanted to go somewhere where he would be happy, learn a few things, and have a couple of awesome friends. He knew his grades were decent, and he knew that he could ace the SAT if he put his mind to it. But the whole thing about the test and what it symbolized about his future, that dreaded word his dad always talked about, rattled him. When the reality set in of having to take the SAT again in a private setting, away from other students as an accommodation worked out by the school, his parents, and the SAT providers, he would shoot up in his bed in a cold sweat. His heart would pound, and he would feel palpitations in his chest and arms. He became short of breath, and that messed-up tingling sensation would start to creep in and take hold. For a fleeting second, he had a feeling of unreality, as if he were not really there, as if he wanted to run out and get help. Yet, perhaps because of being alone in the next test room and not feeling like he was being judged by 1,000 eyes, he would manage to pull out of the spiral, like a fighter pilot who just evaded a round of flak. Still, deep down he was worried that this thing was close, very close, haunting him, ready to overtake him at any time and in very public settings. This thing was a persistent beast, a recurring voice in his ear that said,
You are losing control. You are going crazy.
He was gripped, inches beneath a layer of dermal cool, by an infernal fear that a major anxiety attack would happen again. It was a matter of when, not if. And he would look, desperately, for ways to keep that fear, that private terror, from rearing its ugly head.
Electric acid.